For us common people, I want to understand who is getting to say, go do this, go do that. If it's a puppet show, who's controlling the puppets?
Yeah, well, that's obviously a key question. And, I do shake my head when I see some of these, quote, new stars of the alternative media that have come in since COVID from the mainstream overwhelmingly, who are saying that they don't know who's coordinating this. Well, read my bloody books from 25 years ago. The story is out there. It's just that it's too much for so many people to grasp that it could be true because of the programming because the programming of human perception is basically myopia programming. If you can squeeze people's sense of the possible, then you got them to a large extent. Because when people come along like me and say, this is happening and this is how they're doing it, it's so far out of their sense of the possible that they just reject it by reflex action. No looking at evidence, no research. It's just too far out of their sense of the possible, so it can't be true. And it's quite, I must say depressing, but it's disappointing to hear all these people getting all these this algorithmic support funding, who are saying we don't really know who's. They talk about the deep state. Well, deep state. Right. What's that? It's a global agenda, so it's obviously not just the deep state in America. So what happened is in the early 1990s. Oh, good, all that time ago. I was focusing on who ran the world at the level that we experience. And I kind of uncovered that. And then the whole approach of, well, whatever I know, there's always more to know. You ask more questions because at any point, you don't know all there is to know and all you need to know. So
David Icke, it is a pleasure. How's it going?
Very good. It's a pleasure to talk to, I was going to say a fellow professional footballer, but you still are, and I was long ago. But it's amazing. We were just chatting before, and it's amazing how, if you played football, especially professionally, it's like, you've got a language you speak, haven't you? You know what I mean? There's this point of connection with anybody who's played professional football.
Totally. Yeah. Especially, I've played all over the place. And being an American that's played most of his career in Europe, it's a whole wild experience, because I started in the MLS and I've seen that grow now and, all to what it is now. And coming over here, it's wild. And the world is different, obviously, much so from when I started to now, which is why you are here.
Yeah.
And
well, I tell you what, the world's a heck of a lot different to when I played in the 1960s. Early 70s, and when I was born in the 50s, 1950s, my goodness me, what a different world it is now.
Well, how do we make sense of that? Because, I've seen plenty of your videos. I've been watching your videos for years and years and years, and it's a dream come true, obviously, to be able to ask you some of my own questions. And I know you endured and you've talked at length about the amount of ridicule and things that you've had to go through, only to be proven right in so many different cases. And that's the world we live in today when so many people are awakening. And so I want to just maybe start this off with, today is going to be the first debate between Trump and Kamala Harris. And American politics, being what it is, has a large effect on the world. Could you maybe just give us an understanding of where we're at in the world with current events and how you see this potentially playing out over the next 2 to 3 months?
Well, I've always worked on the premise that whatever I know, there's always more to know. And if you don't do that, then you can start to solidify into an eddy going round and round where you think, oh, I've got it now, I can see what's going on. But there's always more to know. And so over the years, I've started off looking at, in the early 90s, at who really runs the world. Is it the presidents and politicians and prime ministers? Well, no, it's not. You don't have to dig very deep to see that's not the case. And then it's moved on and on and on and on and on. And the picture has got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I've just got a new book out called The Reveal, which is the third of a trilogy of the trap, the dream, and the reveal, which I call the reality trilogy. And that is so deep in the rabbit hole and the scale it's bringing together that it basically dwarfs politics. And I think, one of the things that I've been pushing back on in the last year, 2 years, is the way that the alternative media arena has solidified, I say hijacked since COVID, but it's solidified into right-wing politics. So there was a time when it was understood by most people in the alternative media anyway, pre-COVID this was, that it doesn't matter. This is a phrase I heard many times when I was traveling America in the 1990s, talking to nobody. It doesn't matter who you vote for, the government still gets in. So what's happened is that understanding that we live in a one-party state masquerading as political choice has regressed into Trump good, Harris bad. Now, I don't buy that at all. I mean, I think Kamala Harris is a joke figure, and she's very much part of this appalling, disastrous Biden administration. But, if you're in a one-party state, then that means you control both parties in terms of America, not just the one. And one of the phrases that I've used over the years is know the outcome and you'll see the journey. And so if you can uncover what the planned outcome is, then you can see the journey towards it day by day in events and changes and new legislation and such like. And if you do that in terms of American politics, you see the outcome is for a deeply controlled, fundamentally controlled dystopian society. But I mean, that's planned globally, not just in America, in which ultimately, and not too far from now either, this is not sometime over the rainbow, the connection of artificial intelligence to the human brain, the human mind. And so the one-party state looks at this and it says, okay, well, on the so-called left in politics, which is absolutely not the left that I grew up in England in the 1950s and 60s, very different, what we call woke these days, which is not the left-wing politics that I remember. That is pretty much a pushover to start to move and indeed move very quickly towards this dystopian, technocratic, transhumanist society where people fuse with machines. The problem the one-party state has is that there's a great number of people. We're talking about America now, but it's the same across the world. But in America, basically, they would support Trump. And they need to be dealt with in a different way because everything in the end is perception, control of perception. You control perception, you control behavior. Control behavior en masse, you control human society. And so their perception of going towards this transhumanist connected to AI society needs to be dealt with differently. And so what you have with the woke side, the left side, is basically the hard sell of your Klaus Schwabs at the World Economic Forum and Bill Gates and all these people that say, well, and Ray Kurzweil at Google, this so-called futurist, who said that said some years ago now, that by 2030, they'll be connecting the human brain to artificial intelligence. And once that connection is made, artificial intelligence will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking is, as we know it, is negligible. That's what he's actually said. And that's he's articulating the plan there. But his sales pitch, of course, is that if we fuse with artificial intelligence, we'll be gods. Everyone will be slaves to whatever artificial intelligence tells us we're going to think and emotionally feel. So you have that hard sell. So how do you deal with 70 odd million people more, probably, that in America that don't want that? Well, you do it by bringing into the game a bloke called Elon Musk. I've been following Elon Musk, tracking Elon Musk for a very long time, long before he bought Twitter X. And his companies are ticking every box of this dystopian agenda, not least SpaceX, for reasons we might come to. And, of course, Neuralink, with the connection to the human brain of computer, electrical, AI connections. And so there were some people in the alternative media before he bought Twitter who were seeing this, and they started calling him out for pushing this transhumanist agenda. And then he bought Twitter X, and it stopped. And now he's a god. Now he's a free speech hero. And what is he doing? He's giving the soft sell to the same end. And this is why, Trump-Harris is a diversion in a way, in a big way, because it's which side of the one-party state do you want to support this time? And in another 4 years, you'll get the chance maybe to support another side of the one-party state, but it's still a one-party state. So the soft sell is this. It's Elon Musk saying, first of all, that AI could be the end of humanity as we know it. True, that's the idea, to take away what we now consider to be human thought and emotional response. So what does he say? Well, look, AI is inevitable, right? It's going to happen. Well, of course, it's happening because of human decisions. Low orbit satellites are being put up there in fantastic number by SpaceX, others, but SpaceX overwhelmingly, thanks to decisions made by the Federal Communications Commission. And these low orbit satellites are firing this cloud, as they call it, this electromagnetic field, which is expanding all the time as more satellites go up. And this is fundamentally part, for reasons I'll come to, I'm sure, to this AI connection to the human mind and human perception. So he's saying it's inevitable. The FCC could have made other decisions and said, no, you can't do it. And so because it's inevitable, and of course, AI is getting on and getting more and more intelligent, and it's going to pass human intelligence, the singularity, they call it. And so, well, if we don't fuse with AI, then humans are going to die out. So that's the soft sell that is pulling in more and more of the people that really don't want it. But the thing to keep asking is, what's the outcome? And the outcome of the hard sell is the human brain is connected to AI, and the outcome of the soft sell is the human brain is connected to AI. And it's a different pitch to different perceptual groups. So the pitch to the woke Harris, if you like, quote, left, is different to the pitch of the Trump group, but the outcome is the same. And this is why in the last few weeks, Elon Musk has gone from making endless comments. I mean, he says that 80% of his time he's done engineering and designing.
Right.
Well, no, 80% of his time, if he's actually posting it, he's on Twitter. It's like machine gun fire. And suddenly there was a switch. He was making comments and all that stuff, but he was not being overtly political. And then suddenly he becomes very, very political for Trump and against Harris. And, they say that, and it's true, that people like Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook are manipulating elections by the algorithms and what they allow to be seen and what is suppressed. And he very much was involved in the manipulation of the last election, which Biden was supposedly won. But what Musk now is doing with Twitter X is exactly the same. He's fundamentally using that platform as a Trump support machine and an anti-Harris operation. I mean, I look at this every day and I see it. It's blatant now. It's almost hysterically blatant. And then you've got these other people like Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is an AI guy. He was the first private investor in Facebook, made a fortune out of that. He started an organization, a company called Palantir, which provides surveillance equipment and technology for the Pentagon and for the American intelligence network, plus foreign networks as well. And he is on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, which is what they call a globalist organization. It wants this world government dystopia. Been exposing that for decades. It started in 1954 in Oosterbeek, Holland, at the Bilderberg Hotel, hence the name. And so he is a funder of the political career of J.D. Vance. He's also a business associate of J.D. Vance. He's also a business associate of Vivek Ramaswamy. J.D. Vance, of course, became the running mate of Trump, and Ramaswamy is a massive Trump sycophant and supporter. And when a few months ago now, I suppose, in the summer, they were knocking names around for who was going to be the running mate of Trump, and J.D. Vance came up, because I knew the background and the connections to Thiel, who's was on the Trump transition team in 2016 when he won the election. I knew it was going to be J.D. Vance. They were going to pick, and they picked. That's what they picked. And so there is a significant group of people around Trump, Musk, Thiel, and others, that are absolutely part of this AI human fusion agenda. And it's the soft sell that's coming along to trap and convince people it's the only way to save humanity is to do what the hard sell also wants. And so when I look at it from that perspective, I see a puppet show. I see a vaudeville show. And, the outcome is planned to be the same, whoever wins. Obviously, right. The emphasis now is on Trump. But who knows? But it's so far, this whole question of Trump or Harris, the same in every other country. It's so far from actually the scale of the human dystopia that it's almost laughable. But of course, the mainstream alternative media, which gets all the algorithmic support and all the promotion, all the funding, my God, we've seen the funding some of them get, $100,000 a week. Some of them are being paid at the center core of this alternative media, which has been seriously hijacked since COVID, like I say. And that is focusing attention on the myopia of American politics, because the alternative media has basically become right-wing politics at its center core. That's all it's become. It's been a hijack. And what I've been shouting about as best I can is, hey, it's not just about that. It's much, much bigger. And out there, this much, much bigger is not only where you find the true scale of human control and the absolute foundation of human control, way beyond politics. It's also where you find the answers to human control.
That's actually where I want to go, is because, like you said, it's become clear to most people in the world, America especially as well, that they're waking up to the show that is politics, and this idea that this is a distraction between Trump and Harris, and whoever gets in, doesn't matter. They will push their agenda. I want to move to who is truly in charge. I've had some really interesting guests over the last, let's say, a couple months. I've had Dr. Stephen Greer, if you're that name. We just had Greg Braden just last week, who mentioned, speaking about very similar things as you. And a question that I didn't ask him because he wasn't as qualified as you are, which is, who is leading this charge? And maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this is also part of the question that got you into a whole lot of the trouble with this group and elite, by trying to understand who exactly, whether that come from a metaphysical standpoint or just here on Earth in this 3D physical world. Because if the CIA, for instance, just to name one group of CIA, FBI, whatever elite group you want to name, 3-letter agency, are controlling the assets to some of this. For us common people, I want to understand who is getting to say, go do this, go do that. If it's a puppet show, who's controlling the puppets?
Yeah, well, that's obviously a key question. And, you know, I do shake my head when I see some of these, quote, new stars of the alternative media that have come in since COVID from the mainstream overwhelmingly, who are saying that they don't know who's coordinating this. Well, read my bloody books from 25 years ago. The story is out there. It's just that it's too much for so many people to grasp that it could be true because of the programming because, you know, the programming of human perception is basically myopia programming. If you can squeeze people's sense of the possible, then you got them to a large extent. Because when people come along like me and say, this is happening and this is how they're doing it, it's so far out of their sense of the possible that they just reject it by reflex action. No looking at evidence, no research. It's just too far out of their sense of the possible, so it can't be true. And it's quite, you know, I won't say depressing, but it's disappointing to hear all these people getting all these this algorithmic support funding, who are saying we don't really know who's. They talk about the deep state. Well, you know, deep state. Right. What's that? It's a global agenda, so it's obviously not just the deep state in America. So what happened is in the early 1990s, all that time ago, I was focusing on who ran the world at the level that we experience. And I kind of uncovered that. And then the whole approach of, well, whatever I know, there's always more to know. You ask more questions because, you know, at any point, you don't know all there is to know and all you need to know. So you keep pushing on. And so if I start with the way that the world that we see and experience is controlled, and then go deeper in the rabbit hole to where it's all coming from, I mean, that might be a good way to do it. What I call the global cult, which is the network, the global network of secret societies that's orchestrating global events. Not the source of them, the orchestrator of them. That is a network of secret societies, which if you visualize the planet with a spider's web around it, it's a very good way of symbolizing it. And in the middle of the spider's web is the spider, as I call it, and the spider we'll come to in a sec. But immediately around the spider are the strands in the web that are the most exclusive secret societies. Those people won't be on public display. If people are on public display like Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, whatever, then they're gophers. They might be rich gophers. They might be powerful gophers over those below them in the hierarchy. But to those above, they're gophers. And the ones above, they're in the shadows. They don't put themselves, like I say, on public display. And then you come out from the spider and you come out from those exclusive secret societies. You move into the secret societies we do know, which is the Freemasons. And when I say that, I mean the inner core, not, Bill and Joe down the lodge. Then you've got the Knights Templar, you've got the Knights of Malta, the Opus Dei, the inner core of the Jesuit order. There's many of these secret societies that we know about, but we don't know what they're orchestrating. And well, unless you do some deep research, they're just secret societies keeping secrets. What secrets? And then as you come out through that hidden part of the web, you hit what I call the cusp. And that's where you meet the organizations who they're kind of semi-secret compared with the secret societies because they've put themselves really on public display, or most of them do anyway, not all. And their job is to take the agenda coming from the spider, coming through the secret society network in the hidden, and play it out in the public arena in changes in society through governments, corporations, World Health Organization, World Trade Organization, the United Nations, and so on. And at this cusp, you find the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. You find the Bilderberg Group, a steering committee member being Peter Thiel, and also his fellow co-founder of this Palantir surveillance operation technology company, Palantir, a guy called Alex Karp, who is also not only a co-founder of Palantir, but also on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group. You have the Club of Rome, which was created in 1968, specifically to exploit environmental concerns to justify dystopia. This is where the human-caused climate change hoax came out of, among many other organizations, but that was the initiator. And then also in this cusp group, you've got so-called non-governmental organizations. Many key ones are funded by the Soros organization out of America. You've also got the think tank web. I mean, it's just an explosion, this think tanks and NGOs. Yeah. And their job, and most, an important point to make is that these secret societies are fiercely compartmentalized. I mean, if you look at the secret societies immediately around the spider, well, what's going on will be widely known in those because they're exclusive. But when you go to the Freemasons and some of these other secret societies, they're fiercely compartmentalized. So, if you are a Freemason, for instance, the vast majority of Freemasons in the world are on the bottom 3 levels of degree, the so-called blue degrees. But there's 33 degrees of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. And even when you get to the 33rd degree, there are levels above that most people of the 33rd degree even don't know exist. I've written about that in my books over the years. So it's compartmentalized to the point where only the inner core of all these organizations know what it's really about. So it's the same with these think tanks and these NGOs. There's loads of people that are playing their part in advancing the cult agenda that have no idea there even is an agenda. Never mind, there's a cult. So then we come out in this web. We come out through the cusp area to the world of the scene, to governments, government agencies, and so on. And these are compartmentalized. So was created by the Rockefeller family, and it's now run by a Rockefeller family gopher called Bill Gates. And the vast majority of people in the World Health Organization think they're doing a job for global health. But the inner core knows they're not. It knows the story. And so if you take the World Health Organization, you take Silicon Valley, you take corporations, major corporations, global corporations, you take governments, you take government agencies and so on. If you go deep enough in their hierarchy, you'll meet the point where they attach to the web. And at that point, that inner core, they're all the same organization working to the same end. So, for instance, when you realize that, you can see why certain things happen. The question why Silicon Valley corporations like Facebook and etc., YouTube, they all threw me off in April 2020 for exposing the code. They said from the start that they were going to censor content that challenged the World Health Organization version of COVID. Now, on the face of it, you're going, what are you doing? You're supposed to be the town square where we share opinions and evidence and information. And what are you doing? Saying you're going to, from the start, that you're going to censor anything that is not the narrative. Well, once you realize that these Silicon Valley corporations, just look at the backgrounds of where they came from, places like In-Q-Tel, the technological development arm of the CIA, and DARPA, the technological development arm of the Pentagon, the Googles and Google on YouTube and Facebook, etc., which involved Peter Thiel. you then realize that they, at their inner core, attached to the web, the global cult web, and so does the World Health Organization, obviously, there being a Rockefeller creation. And so what you're looking at is one arm of the web censoring on behalf of another part of the web so that the web agenda can be advanced. It also explains why the big pharma cartel, people like Pfizer and Moderna, can go to apparently drug regulatory agencies of government supposed to protect the public from those organizations and ask for their, not even a vaccine under previous criteria, to be given to people and younger ages, right down to babies. And even though there's no trials worth the name, they get permission. And it's like, what are you doing? Well, when you realize that the inner core of the CDC in America and the FDA and their like around the world is attaching to the cult web, and so I mean, my goodness, the big pharma cartel was created by the Rockefellers originally again. So they're connected to the web. So again, it's the web asking the web for permission to roll out the benefit of the web. This is what's going on all the time. And of course, you know, the great savior of the world, Donald Trump, not only was fundamental in making that Operation Warp Speed happen in America, or the play out of the scene, but actually still today, despite all the death and health destruction that's there to be seen as a result, still says it was a fantastic thing and is a fantastic thing. So this is how it works. So then you go to the spider and then you say, well, what's the spider? And, you know, one of the things that, you know, you have to do if you really want to know what's going on is you have to research an enormous number of subjects. No good just researching politics and that level of it, because you'll have what's going on in politics. You won't have anything else. And so I started from the kind of mid-90s onwards, really starting to look at the nature of reality. What is reality? What is this place? And you start then to realize that what we call the human world, I go into this in detail, really deep in the rabbit hole, deeper than I've ever been before in the Reveal, the new book. And you realize that this so-called human world is absolutely tiny. You know, we call it a world of matter, but actually matter, atomic matter, is a tiny, tiny, infinitesimal part of the reality that we're experiencing. You know, I'm looking around now and I see a wall, I see some lights, I see a computer, I see a desk. And between those forms of matter, I see what appears to my perception to be empty space. But there is no empty space, so what's in it? And, you know, calling this is mainstream science. The visible universe is not made up of what we call atomic matter. That's tiny. Just the forms that we see. It's 99%, some say 99.9%, or 99%, something called plasma, which is called the fourth state of matter. It's a much more ethereal, energetic frequency. And it's all in the so-called empty space that we are experiencing. And you start to realize that, hey, this world we thought we lived in is nothing at all like we are experiencing it. And then the big thing, the big penny drops when you, and I say, I keep saying this, that every child at the earliest age they can grasp this should be told this as a matter of course. That when they look through their eyes, they're not seeing everything in the space that they're looking at. They're only seeing a tiny band of frequency that we call, and science calls, visible light. And to put that into perspective, according to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum, which is basically human reality as we experience it, is 0.005% of what exists in energy in all its forms in the universe. And visible light, which is all we can see, everything you're looking at now is within this band of frequency, is a fraction of the 0.005%. Basically, humans are blind. And outside of that visible light is infinity in all its forms and facets. But we are not aware of that because we can only see, we are locked in. It's like being locked into a television channel or locked into a radio station. And, the old analog system, if you were on a television channel or a radio station, no other radio station exists, just the one you're hearing. But then you move the dial to another radio station, another frequency, and now you've got that. But the one you've left hasn't disappeared. It's just that you're not tuned to it anymore. And so we are tuned to this realm of, quote, matter. And outside of that is infinity. And what then began to become clear through, enormous research, synchronicity, people I met, personal experience, is that this reality, this human world, is being manipulated from another realm outside of visible light, a realm they call in esoteric circles the astral or fourth dimension. You take this to be third dimension, just names. And that's the spider. That's where it's coming from. It's coming from this other dimension. And this global cult is operating within the human frequency band to impose upon humans an agenda that's actually coming from outside of the human frequency realm. And what's fascinating to me is as I kept asking questions and realized that whatever I know, there's always more to know, is how much agreement there is across the religions and the various cultures around the world of this. Not only that, I have met many, many people in America in the industrial and military intelligence complex who have confirmed it, that this is actually what's happening. And
who's controlling the puppets? Who's controlling the puppets, people? Or what is controlling the puppets? That's the main question. That's the main question. This whole Charlie Kirk incident. Who's pulling the strings? Now you're hearing he got shot from behind. No exit wound. Bullet is in his neck. Man of steel. The doctor saying man of steel. People say no autopsy has been done. Nobody can see the body. There is no blood. Oh my MG. Said it here first, people. We said it here first. Yeah, David admitted that we need more research. Find out what's really going on. And it was alright. So many people say they don't need any more research, but you need it, people. You need it. You can't just jump to conclusion like that because many agents, many power sources are at play. Many movers and shakers. So this real, people, and it's like Charlie Kirk shoot down the whole Epstein thing, that Epstein hot water that was hanging above Trump's head. It's like Charlie Kirk shoot down the story. And you have a PDF file, so-called president giving speech, funeral speech, and people clapping and, oh, kind of man, your best friend, with as they call it, your news, your reporting said these things, One of the most famous PDF file. You and that man is best friend, so That alone, people, that alone should make people just, this man shouldn't can continue as president, people, and so-called president and leader. But why it's allowed to happen? Because it's been controlled, people. They're puppets, so they're puppets. So all we want to say, alright, normal people don't enter politics, normal people, everybody is controlled. We're not saying that. But to reach this level of power, you have to be controlled, you have to be a puppet. It's like if you go into a workplace, if you join the police, the soldier, they just want to control your mind. They have to control your mind for you to go on. It's just that it's a mind control thing at all times, people. So it's the same thing. These guys are being controlled by their masters. So that's where we're at in this time, people. Trying to see who are the puppet masters to cut that string and get rid of it. Get rid of that puppeteer. Get rid of the puppeteer. That's the aim, that's the mission. That's why we're here, people. That's why we're here pushing this message, pushing this information. Needed more than ever. More than ever, people. It's needed. And I want to close on this note. The Gaza thing, people. Wow. Heart-wrenching to even talk about it. Evil, genocide, and continue. We're not seeing any ending soon. No ending in sight, people, and it's crazy, but we go on. Fight continues. We move on.